Chapter 6. Losing Everything. I had come so far and overcome so much to achieve a place in life that exceeded my wildest dreams. I had developed confidence, self-love, a sense of connection, support, love, success, and a belief that things could work out. However, things were about to change, and the impact of how I lost everything would destroy the very qualities I would need to face increasingly challenging situations. There was a villain in this story, someone named John F. He was like a guru who had not gained any relevant college education, training, supervision, or experience to act as a therapist. He had called himself a therapist, but when people caught on to him, he claimed he was just a support person. He had started diagnosing people with dissociative identity disorder, DID, a condition where people have different personalities or alters. This is a very rare condition. The way he told it, he happened to notice at a 12-step alcohol and drug online community that some people might have this condition. He found me because, as president of the local chapter of clinical social workers, I organized a workshop for clinicians to learn about this condition and how to treat others. I contacted the local newspaper to announce the training, but the newspaper wanted to do a full story on this. Although I was new in the field compared to other therapists, I got the attention of 2 local people who wanted a therapist. In addition, John F. referred someone that he thought might have this condition, a Mrs. D. Actually, he had been communicating with these various alter personalities that Mrs. D had. She had not been diagnosed by any professional when she first came to my office after I told John that I would meet with her. Before long, John would move down to Wilmington from Pennsylvania or Virginia, bringing a few other women who he diagnosed with DID and who he was supporting. He had decided to move in with the first person that he referred to me, Mrs. D. I started to learn that he was providing treatment to the same clients that he referred to me. Most importantly, they were getting so much worse. I had eventually heard that people had made allegations against him for falsely claiming to be a therapist, and there were other allegations. From confidential therapy sessions with clients, I learned more about what he was doing. I was shocked and alarmed. The falling out. We had a falling out in early 2000 when I realized that the worst claims about him were likely true. I had tried to help a client named Tracy, who had come down to Wilmington, North Carolina from New Jersey with John, and she started to meet with me for therapy. She had been afraid after she turned down sexual advances that John made. I thought I could straighten things out and help Tracy. He had admitted on the phone his lack of conscience or remorse. Tracy had left an abusive husband thinking she would be able to get help, and now she was being hurt by John. Tracy did end up escaping and returning back north to enter a shelter for women who are victims of domestic violence. I had not studied psychopaths or others like John who harm people because they don't generally come for therapy. Soon I learned that John had composed a grievance letter to my licensure board and had 5 of my clients sign the identical complaint letter or statement. One of my clients who had successfully completed therapy with me had signed the same letter. I also learned that they had filed a civil suit for malpractice. They had a reason to be frustrated because they were getting worse. I had not known how many people were receiving treatment from John. Everything that I had worked to create as far as a career, going back to Georgia Tech in 1984, some 16 years later, was about to be taken away from me. This was so overwhelmingly disturbing for me. My greatest passion was to help others cope with mental illness, and this had been rewarding. I never saw it coming. I was in shock. And then, at the same time, Lynn became very sick and had to be taken to the hospital for inpatient treatment. Lynn becomes very sick. From the moment I met Lynn, I knew her life would be cut short by a cruel genetic illness, cystic fibrosis, a chronic and terminal condition that used to claim lives before adulthood. Despite advances in treatment, her lifespan was still limited. But I refused to face this reality, clinging to hope for a miracle cure that never came. We built a home together, formed a family. Lynn had dreams of pursuing her education in writing. She had hopes beyond her illness, and then it happened. In late July 2000, she was hospitalized for a few days, but this time it was serious. Our newlywed bliss shattered as we faced the harsh truth of her deteriorating health. Memories of our passionate and joyful moments together flooded my mind as I watched her suffer. Our normal life had changed, and I couldn't bear to see her in pain. Now things were more dire. She couldn't keep much weight on her, which was a signal that her health was beginning to take a different direction than ever before. Her oxygen saturation was very low. It had happened so suddenly, and it seemed to be unexpected. When she was finally released after a week, it was only temporary relief before she would have to return. By now she couldn't even function without being hooked up to an oxygen tank. The sensation of suffocating consumed her out every moment, leaving her helpless and unable to care for herself. The perfect storm. There was nothing I could do to stop the unthinkable idea that she might die. As she lay in the hospital for the second time, receiving IV antibiotics to fight the infections, she made the decision to move in with her mother for a cleaner and safer environment. But as I sat by her bedside, I received news of grievances filed against me and a looming malpractice suit, all claiming that I was not skilled enough and that it was my fault that they were getting worse. My efforts to steer them away from John F., who only worsened their condition, fell on deaf ears. The timing was cruel, just when I needed all my emotional resources to support Lynn through her crisis. I was fighting for my professional survival. The two most important things in my life, my love and my career, were both slipping away simultaneously. Every moment spent at home or outside felt like a distorted reality, a nightmare that I had not been prepared to face, despite having known from the beginning that Lynn had a serious illness. I knew deep down that these were symptoms of dissociation, my mind trying to protect itself from the overwhelming terror and perceived threat to the existence I had known. The world around me felt unreal, like an illusion, while I myself felt detached from my own body, floating above it as if observing someone else's life. Everything I had worked so hard for and achieved was being torn away from me without mercy. Love and all its accompanying emotions were foreign concepts to me, yet now they were being ripped away mercilessly from my grasp. It was a hellish nightmare come to life, and there was no escape other than to retreat into my mind further.